All right, well, welcome to the Career Transition Podcast. I'm Joaquin, and I got,
Gavin Pendergrove.
yep. And so this is going to be our first episode, first interview. So we got two sports media majors here, correct? You guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Noah Blackwell. I'm sports media major, production emphasis.
I'm Rowdy Baribeau, sports media major with a writing emphasis, but I consider myself to be a multi-tool.
Oh, yeah. That's what's up. All right, well, today we're just kind of going to ask a few questions. What your major was, how were the last few years, in the future, that kind of stuff. So we could just go back and forth, honestly. I mean, and we could each ask one question at a time.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so we kind of already did the introduce yourself and your major. So, just how were the last few years of college for you? Just either one of you can go.
Last few years, they were definitely more stressful than the first 2 years. Just for our major, because you take your gen eds freshman year, then sophomore year, you dive straight in, and it's when you dive straight into media stuff, it's kind of wakes you up real quick, just because you have your fundamental classes, but it goes from 0 to 100 real quick. It goes from fundamental to like your emphasis classes, and so I would say that end of sophomore year to beginning of junior year was the most stressful time of my life. It was really stressful, but the last 2 years I've enjoyed it. I've gone to be able to really make a lot of connections with people compared to my first 2 years, just because of the projects I had to do. Our professors really push us to go out there and talk with people, and learn their stories, for at least for production, when we're trying to put together a package or something. So I've been able to meet a lot of characters for sure, but also just hear some great stories around Oklahoma, the university, stuff like that.
Yeah, I got involved early on, and then kind of had a little bit of I kind of had a welcome to media moment, and it got kind of put me in a little bit of a rough place, and so I was like, I'm not sure if this is for me. So about the first 2 years of school, I was kind of bouncing back and forth to see if media is really for me. But then about the end of my sophomore year, beginning of junior year, got involved again back into writing, which was where I got started in media as a writer, and got back into that, and I found my passion again. So. Yeah, kind of like with what Noah said, it feels like the first 2 years were a little bit easier, and and for one, me, I wasn't as involved, so I had a little bit more time on my hands to get school done, and so school wasn't as stressful. But now, as I write for two publications, and I haven't, and now I'm trying to find a job. So honestly, I'd say now it's probably the most stressful I've been ever since. Probably, well. I mean, the last 2 years have just been really stressful. I mean, they have been in all that regard. So I think, the one thing I wish I could kind of maybe change probably is just getting involved a little bit earlier on, getting used to people are, it's like, oh crap, kind of get past that oh crap moment and then stick with it. Because that would have given me 4 years of experience instead of 2 years in my junior and senior year.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I got a loop here. Let's see. So, what kind of things did you guys get involved in during your time here at Oklahoma State?
You can go first.
I got involved with the Ocali, the student newspaper. I did a lot of writing for them. I did some podcasts, some video stand-up stuff, live tweeting, of course, of ball games, wrestling events. And I also write for All Hurricanes on Sports Illustrated Fan Nation, which is they cover the Miami Hurricanes. That's kind of a dream for me because I grew up a Miami fan, so it's really cool. And those are two of the things I've done. I also worked for the Stillwater News Press for a weekend. I covered the Oklahoma State wrestling tournament. That was a dream. Honestly, that was really cool. It was super hectic. But that was my first exposure to a wrestling tournament, and that was kind of heaven for me. A lot of people, they say, oh man, wrestling tournaments are long. I was like, man, I need more of it. I could have been there till 12, 1 o'clock watching wrestling. I would have been all right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those are some of the biggest things I got involved in. And kind of like what Noah said earlier, I felt like I made some pretty decent connections, especially over the last 2 years. Because first two, I let that one bad moment kind of turn me into a hermit, honestly, and that's kind of something I regret. But yeah, I've getting involved in Ocali and the Fan Nation and the news press. It's been fun. It's been rewarding in a lot of regards, and I wouldn't change anything regarding that.
So for me, freshman year, I started with Ocali TV, just to kind of get my feet wet. So a lot of the seniors that year were good about reaching out and just getting the freshmen to come join stuff. And so I remember first semester, freshman year, two of the seniors they reached out to me. They needed just production help for their live show. And so I was a cameraman for their show for all freshman year until COVID hit. And it was good just to get experience. I actually got to my first time freelancing just for camera was for the Homecoming Parade 2019, just because they were like, hey, we need someone else, some extra hands for Max's live show. We got the Homecoming Parade, so that was a really cool experience. That was like a holy crap, is this happening moment. I've like it was my first time on camera. I had to do the shoulder camera, like out there on the side of the road. I have someone in my ear telling me what to do. It was I was shaking, like my camera was shaking. I didn't know how to like focus and zoom on it, but I picked it up real quick and it was good. And so I was with Ocali TV. Sophomore year, I kind of transitioned into more of the news side, so I was helping write scripts for the shows. I was making post game packages, which it was kind of hard because it was COVID year, so we had to like there wasn't many opportunities for shows like live student shows and stuff, and so I just started writing scripts and doing just post game packages, what I could really. And then towards the end of my sophomore year, Gavin Lake came into one of our classes and talked about just being, a student at SID. And so I applied for that and I didn't get it, but he mentioned Orange Power Studios, which was production based with the university. It's where all of our video services is for all of our in-house shows. And so that going into that summer, I knew I wanted to get involved more because it was going into junior. I'm like, okay, I have a little experience, not enough to where I'm comfortable right now. And I just knew it was a wake up moment. Like, okay, we gotta get going. Like, I gotta start getting, you know, really good experience with what I want. And I was kind of on the fence of like, did I want to go writing based or production based? Because that's where you kind of have to make the choice. And so I applied to Orange Power Studios, got the job, and I've been there the since my junior year, the last 2 years, and I've loved it. It's been amazing. It's awesome to have a school where you can be involved. They let students be involved, especially at a D1 Power 5 school. Like, not a lot of schools have opportunities for kids like that. And so when I joined, I was nervous, but I think because I picked everything up so quick, that's when I knew I wanted to do production. And just like being able to work around freelancers who have been doing this for 30 years, students, we have a couple adjunct professors who work over there. So it was just a really good environment. I like the team environment. So I've been working there for the last 2 years. I've loved every minute. I've gotten experience with everything in the control room, graphics, shading, on camera setup, all sorts of stuff. And so going from, Ocala TV, just doing a student show, Ocala TV, and then Orange Power Studios, uh, I've really enjoyed it. I've come a long way since freshman year, but it was really cool to see OSU to have the professors, pushing involved and the students. I think it's big that those seniors just push me, and it's been a great time. I think, yeah.
So, next question is, how do you guys think those experiences kind of prepared you for where you are now?
Yeah, so Orange Power Studios definitely has prepared me. I actually got an internship last summer. I had a summer internship with the baseball team, the Portland Pickles, out in Portland, Oregon. And I'm not sure if I would have gone the internship and or been as prepared for that internship out in Portland, because working with Orange Power Studios, they teach you how to swap fibers, how to troubleshoot cameras, just basic camera setup, replay, like just the different aspects. And so I had so much knowledge as a student working at Orange Power Studios that when I went to that internship, it was not, I didn't have all the, luxurious equipment. It was kind of like being humbled going back to zero, but I knew like how to build up their broadcast. I was the broadcast operations intern out there. And so that was definitely something I took away from my experience at OPS. And then currently right now, in the interview process, on my resume, Orange Power Studios is the top experience I have because I've been there the longest and I've learned the most from there. And so every interview I've had, they've talked about Orange Power Studios, and I've been able to just rant about like just how much experience I have as a student because not a lot of kids get to work in a live production like that. Plus, we stream out to ESPN Plus, and so I've been able to be a part of an ESPN Plus broadcast, which is kind of cool. So it's definitely the experiences here have definitely helped me prepare in the interview process and for past internships I've had.
Yeah, I'd say I feel semi prepared. I don't think, with respect to what Noah said, honestly, I feel like there's not a lot that you can get prepared in college, but once you get out into the real world, it's like, man, there's not a lot that can prepare you for it because, this industry is pretty brutal in a lot of regards, as far as your time and getting paid and time off, time with family, all that. You don't get as much of that. And so I think, growing into that and kind of learning that, life isn't, it's not that everyone should realize, life's not going to be easy. If you think life's going to be easy, then you're going to have a tough life. But I think with some of the things that we've learned, I think it can prepare us as best as it can. But I think it's really up to the individuals and their drive and their passion to see if they can take what they have learned and apply it in the real world and further themselves, further their career, and things like that. So, but as in regard to me, I feel like I'm semi prepared. I think it's kind of hard for me to say I am prepared because I don't know what it's like. I'm the uncertainty of the real world. You could get out into a certain job and it's like, oh crap, this may not be for me. Like I wasn't ready for this, because I had that moment when I first got to school and I called my first football game. It was like, hey, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And it was a big wake up call. That was what kind of turned me off from media for about 2 years. It was just kind of a tough experience for me. I was soft. I wasn't ready for it. I'm hardened, and I feel like I'm ready for the real world now. But it's just it's kind of hard to say if I'm fully prepared because I hate uncertainty, and there's a lot of uncertainty in my future right now, and it's like I don't know if I'm prepared for it, but I guess I am excited for the future though because it's the future. You never know what it's gonna hold. It could hold something good, and you got to be a little bit of an optimist, or else you're gonna just keep thinking it's gonna be all bad. But yeah, I feel pretty prepared, or at least somewhat experienced, and got a decent idea of what I can do in the future.
Yeah, so I feel like you guys kind of touched on it, but maybe like more specifically, what have you learned most in college?
Most in college, wow. Really, I think I've learned just not a ton, but a little bit of just working with people and working kind of in the real world because when you have to go out and do stories for classes, you got to talk to actual people. You got to set up, meeting time, stuff like that. And that's just something that until you do, you just don't know how to do it. And so, it's definitely taught me just the little factors like that. It's also taught me, you know, it's taught me how to work on my feet. It's in our classes like the last couple semesters we've had to turn out videos and projects weekly, and so you learn how to work quickly and with the pace. Now it's not obviously real world. Once we leave, it's gonna be even faster, and so we're gonna have to adjust to that. But it's good that we already know that we both kind of did a I think Rowdy could say too. We both kind of had litmus tests for each of us, and we figured out, okay, we could make it in this industry, but you're always learning, you're always adjusting. But I think I just kind of learned how to work on my feet and how to multitask better. You got to be able to troubleshoot. You got to be able not to panic. Sports. So many things can go wrong. It's not perfect. Not every broadcast or story is going to look the same. Not every source is going to be as open as another source, and so you got to learn how to work with what you got. And I think I kind of took that away with some of the real world experience I got in classes and working at OPS.
Yeah, to build off what Noah said, you gotta be good on your feet. You gotta be able to do stuff fast. The turnaround for events, for us, we're in sports emphasis, so you've got a quicker turnaround of events. I mean, you got deadlines everywhere, but when you have stuff like that, it trains you to work faster, but you also got to be. It also trains you because if you work when people work fast, sometimes you end up with a cheeseburger with the cheese hanging out of the side of it. I mean, it's too fast. It's not done correctly. It's not good. So if you go too fast, then your stuff is bad. So I think that's one thing with as a writer, I think I've learned is how to. That's probably the biggest thing is how to write for deadline. Because if you don't write for deadline, then you're not going to be a good. I hate to say it. I mean, you as much of a good writer as you can be. If it takes you 3 hours to write a good piece compared to an hour, then they're going to take that 1 hour guy because time is money in the journalism world. So, and I think just to kind of add on to what Noah was saying of things that you learn to kind of be successful. Don't in this industry if you have a hot head, if you think you're the stuff and you're trying to be someone you're not and you have a high ego, then you're not going to be super. You're going to be you're not going to be super successful because you're going to think you're the best. You're not going to want to pay attention to what anybody else is doing in good respects. But yeah, I think you gotta keep yourself calm, cool, and collected, and don't always think that you're the best in the room because it's not that you're the worst, but you don't have to be the best. You can just be a average guy. Be content with what you do. Don't think you have to be better than everybody else. Just be content with what you do and work as hard as you can.
Of course. So I feel like you guys sort of talked about this already, but what is it? If there was anything you'd do differently, like in particular, what would you change?
Oh, for me, definitely. Oh boy, I'd probably say doing more early because I did do stuff for Ocala TV freshman year, but I mean it wasn't a ton of stuff, and it was freshman year. Everyone's trying to settle into to stuff, and obviously COVID the following year kind of impacted stuff. But I definitely wish I got involved with Orange Power Studios before. We have there's someone that we know that's he worked with Orange Power Studios, so I've known about it since freshman year, but I just never got involved, and I probably should have definitely started there before my junior year. But I definitely wish I started earlier there because then I'd have even more knowledge and in that industry, and probably I would have been able to see the workarounds during COVID because I went there after COVID, so all I know is post COVID working in the in house broadcast. But I think I would have taken away a lot if I was working there during COVID because they had to adjust just like everyone else, and that's just something you can't get back. Is just learning how just seeing how your bosses react to stuff like that, and how they problem solve. So I definitely wish I got involved earlier, but I'm pretty content with the stuff I did in freshman year, sophomore year. They tell yourself not to overwork yourself early in this industry when you're leaving or just when you're in school. Just don't overwork yourself because you can get burnt out pretty easy. So I definitely wish I got involved with more stuff earlier, but other than that, I've really been content with what I've done here at OSU.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the same thing with Noah. I wish I'd gotten a little involved earlier. I always wonder in the back of my head if that's kind of impacted, a job search or, someone looking in to hire me is, oh, this guy's got 2 to 3 years of good experience compared to this guy who's got, four to five. So, getting involved earlier, I wish I would have done that, and I kind of wish I had a little bit more thicker skin back then, because if I had the thicker skin back then, I would have been able to tough through some of that stuff, and it wouldn't have, turned me off from media as much. Because, like I said, I had that one bad football game experience, and broadcasting, and it was just like, man, like I do not want to do this anymore. And I just honestly, I'd say I just wish I had thicker skin at the beginning, because if I did, then I would have been with this for 4 years. But I feel like I've compensated well for myself. Instead of just writing for the Ocali for 2 years, I picked up another publication that I wrote for, and then I was a stringer for the news press. So I never really was like Collie beast per se, but I worked out in other places and tried to get as much content in other places as possible, and I got pretty good feedback from working at the Miami site. So yeah, I'd say I've compensated pretty well instead of missing out for the first 2 years.
Mhm. So this next question is kind of a two-parter, but so like what's your immediate plan after college, and then also like what are your long-term goals?
Shoot, I'll be quick and easy. I don't have one right now. Still trying to figure that out. Was talking to you a little bit before. There could be something at a local paper. Uh, yeah, I don't know, man. That's kind of the biggest rough part right now. Is I'm at that transition phase of college where I'm wrapping up my last final. I've got one more final exam, get that out of the way, and then on top of that, I'm still sending out some applications, still writing some cover letters. Uh, so, as for my plan after college, let's just give a hypothetical here. I'd love to be covering college sports. I'd love to get a little bit of an emphasis on wrestling. That's my thing. I love wrestling. So wherever I can be, if I can get just a little bit of wrestling on a newspaper, on a site, that'd be wonderful. Uh, yeah, I mean, I want to go somewhere that I can be happy and enjoy what I do. I don't want to be burnt out super fast, super early, but yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing after school, but I'm pretty optimistic that what I've done will help me get a good job somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm currently in the interview process with two different jobs. I won't say the names just since we're still in the process, but um, interviewing with two jobs, one at the collegiate level and then another one just at the news level. And so it's been going well. It's just taking everything we've learned in capstone with the interview skills and what my parents have told me. So I was just trying to hone in, do the best I can when it comes to interviews, because you can always prepare as much. You can prepare so much, but until you do it, that's when you start picking up little things. How to answer questions directly, short, sweet, and know how to take curveballs. And so that's where I am right now, just interviewing with places. And I was saying earlier how I didn't hear back from anyone in April, and at that point, I probably interviewed with at least, or not interviewed, but applied to at least 40 jobs by then, and I didn't hear anything back. I was like, "What is this luck?" And then the two jobs I'm interviewing with right now, they both hit me up the same day about interviews, and so it's just kind of weird how that happens, but that's sports, right? Um, but long term, I should probably get this question down too, because both of the interviews I've had, they've asked what I want to do long term. Like, wherever the wind takes me, I guess. You kind of don't know in sports. Like, I mean, if you're a doctor or something, another
Hmm.
industry, you might know that goal because it's kind of common. But for sports, everyone's goal is different. Like, some just want to, some want to work in collegiate sports, some want to work in pro sports, some high school level want to be coaches or something like that. So, um, not sure long term. I think I would love to work in pro sports overall, though. At the end of the long run for production wise, I feel like that's kind of where you want to make it. Is you want to be producing a Super Bowl or producing a NBA final, something like that. But definitely would love to work in professional sports. It's definitely a hard path to get to, and a long one, but really just told myself. Shout out to one of my roommates. He got a job and he was talking to me and one of my other roommates. He's like, everyone's path is different at this point. It's weird because you're always comparing yourself to others. Everyone's in school at the same time. When you go to school, you go to college. So everyone's path is like, okay, graduate college, and then after that's like, they're doing their own thing. They're doing their own thing. So you kind of just gotta can't compare yourself to others at this point. You just got to go what's best with you, best with a significant other if you have one. Just go on you work on your own path. You can't compare yourself to others because that can be a big downfall. So I'm kind of just working on my own path right now, just seeing what's best for me and what's best for my future. But yeah, hopefully professional sports is where I'll be here in 15, 20 years.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys for those answers. Honestly, it's been really good discussion. Just one last question for you guys. If you could give advice to like other students, people who are incoming to the media school or just like coming to college in general, like what kind of advice would you guys dish out?
Have thick skin. You gotta be tough. Because college, it's you gotta have better study habits. College is, I heard it. I can't remember who said it, but colleges, they said, is where you find yourself a little bit, and I feel like I've kind of lost myself. But I'm actually in that process of finding myself right now. So I feel like come to college with some tough skin. Don't let what somebody, a professor or an advisor says beat you down like it did me at the beginning. Be tough and believe in yourself and believe in your abilities, even if it's not the greatest outcome at first. That's because for me, I keep forgetting that was my very first football game, so of course it wasn't going to be good. It wasn't great. So you got to kind of find little moral victories of, oh, okay, well, guess what? I did call a football game. I got to do this. Find little moral victories in what you do, even if it's not, the most successful, but you have to find something, find some silver lining because, like I didn't at the beginning, I just beat myself up and I was in a rut for 2 years of it. So get some thick skin, fellas and gals, and, be tough. Be tough on yourself because no one, I mean, you got to be tough on yourself or no one else is going to be harder on you.
Yeah, thick skin for sure. Like, coming in, a lot of freshmen don't have thick skin, and so
Mm-hmm.
if you can build it early, if you can just build up taking criticism, but
I was
really,
that freshman.
yeah, you gotta be able to take that criticism. But for me, at two, can't be afraid to fail, especially in our industry. Like you're gonna fail. Like Wi-Fi is gonna go down, and your broadcast goes black, or like a story source cancels on you last minute. Not everything's gonna be perfect for sports, so you can't be afraid to fail. Like you gotta work, and if you do fail, you find yourself, you find out ways of how you handle failure, how you handle how good you can troubleshoot. I found that out kind of late. It was last summer when I was found out how to troubleshoot things, how to take failure. But that's part of life. You just gotta be able to take it. Secondly, man, if you're a sophomore or junior, you have to welcome the freshmen with open arms. I will say that's one thing I definitely do regret was our sophomore junior year. I was friends with a lot of younger classmen, but I didn't really show them around. COVID didn't help with that, but
Right.
can't be afraid to reach out to the freshmen because if you can help the freshmen get involved early, then that's the biggest accomplishment you can get as upperclassmen in sports media. And I still gotta give credit to Logan and Reed. That was the first show that I worked on freshman year, and they both just reached out to me. And when I was just walking through the hallways, and that's how I started with Old Collie TV, and that's how I kind of built up my confidence. It's good for freshmen. Not a lot of confidence. It's new. So if you're sophomore, junior, reach out to those younger freshmen. Just show them around. Just find out what they want to do, what they like, and just give them options of like, hey, you can do this, you can do this. Uh, here's different avenues you can go. So definitely just reach out to the younger classmen because they're bright eyed. They don't know yet. They just
Mm.
they we'll sit back and wait, kind of like, me and Rowdy did. We kind of didn't get involved until, really our junior years and stuff. And so if you can get them involved in stuff early, then it's the best thing you can do. So I think those are two pieces of advice of don't be afraid to fail and, reach out to the younger classmen and get them involved.
Yeah, I'd say one last thing is, if it wasn't for John Helsley, I don't know if I would have gotten back into sports writing because I was taking his class my junior year and he's like, hey, just come into the Ocali, just come on in and do some writing. And I did that and, I fell in love with it and then that's where I found wrestling. So, yeah, I mean, big shout out to John Helsley because he helped get me out of that rut that I was in because I don't know how much longer I would have continued to drive myself down that path of just doing nothing. And so for him to kind of get me out of that, I really appreciate it because maybe I should have done that my freshman year. He's gotten a little bit more involved on the writing side, but yeah, I mean, and for just one little thing of advice also is, pay attention to your professors. They may be brash, they may be rude sometimes, but I think, as I've learned, I really do think they just want the best for us in a lot of respects. Like, yeah, I mean, they don't want us to be failures because they teach us, why do they're going to go home to their wives or whomever and say, oh, well, hey, I taught a failure, haha, no one wants to go and do that, they want to say, oh, I taught the next, Brett McMurphy or I taught the next Stephen A. Smith. They want to have something they can have pride in, so, yeah, just pay attention to your professors, listen to them because they only want what's best for you. That's my last piece of advice.
Yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming here and
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it.
For sure, it was a great discussion. I really appreciate all the
Yeah.
stuff you guys said. Honestly, inspiring.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Try our best.
Well, thank you guys.
Yep, thank you.
All right, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.